evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 21st, 2020 episode of the CyberInsecurity stream. My name is Neil Bridges, and thank you all for joining me today. Especially welcome to all of our new joiners as well as our regular visitors. Just as a reminder, you can catch us on stream here every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. We stream from 7 to 9 p.m. Central, unless, of course, you're this last Saturday where we have some technical issues, which then also culminated into some technical issues literally right before this stream. I'll get into that here a little bit later. We're here to elevate the conversation around cybersecurity. What exactly does that mean? We have a problem in this industry where we don't have a lot of real conversations about topics that affect our ability to secure people, data, and company. And so as a result of that, we try to bring those conversations here to this channel and whatnot. Getting some feedback. Okay, so you might see some adjustments happening. Like I said, we had some technical difficulties literally right before this stream. There we go. Get back to my scripted intro. Cybersecurity is an ever-changing landscape, and our goal here is to focus on multiple aspects of that industry. You'll hear terms like red teamer and blue teamer and think that you're out of your league. You're really not. We also discuss cyber risk, industry impacts of the current landscape, and the art of the possible when dealing with today's cybersecurity issues. Whether you're an experienced veteran, new to the field, whether you barely know how to spell cyber, or somebody who's born into it, this stream is for you. We are here for everyone to participate and learn in our community. With that in mind, we regularly try to have professionals from across the industry on stream. Nobody tonight. You just got to deal with me tonight. So there's that. I do have some upcoming news in terms of later this week. In terms of who's gonna show up later this week, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. We do have moderators in chat. Always make sure you give your thanks to the moderators. They work really hard to keep the chat flowing, making sure that we got links and things like that and whatnot. So thank you to all the moderators. They're here to answer questions that you may have as well. I'm here to answer questions as well. Your questions are very important to every single one of us. That really is the prime value that comes from this stream being live. If you were here last week, we had two really special guests here last week, and you saw chat was very, very overflowing with folks from asking questions and whatnot to our professionals. And so, make sure that you take advantage of that chat being there. And so at any point in time, whether it's about whatever topic we happen to be talking about, whether it's something that's top of mind about security or what we have going on, if you want to ask me about one of the posters in the background or anything else that's going on, feel free to. This is about you all chat, and you can see that we spend a lot of time making sure that you guys are all taken care of from a chat perspective. We broadcast via Twitch for our regularly scheduled broadcast, but you can find videos either in the video section of Twitch or by viewing our YouTube channel. If you do like the content over on our YouTube channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit those notifications whenever we do upload new content. We are here for you, the community, and so therefore we strive to bring you the most intriguing opinions, points of views, and conversation in the cybersecurity industry with every single solitary stream. We appreciate every single one of our followers. We're about to cross over that 500 follower number, and I appreciate all 500 of you. We're at 487 right now, and I appreciate every single one of you. Appreciate all of our subscribers. We did have a run on of gifted subs during the last stream, and so we do appreciate all the subscribers there. We have had a couple people donate to the stream already, and so before I get into that, I want to say any and all donations that are donated to the stream will be immediately sent to the Wounded Warrior Foundation. Part of what I was troubleshooting on Saturday, Therson in chat. Thank you very much, Therson. Therson had given a $20 stream or a $20 donation. We will be sending that donation over to Wounded Warriors, and we do appreciate you supporting our veterans. If there are any veterans, in chat, we do thank you, for your service and for your sacrifice. So we will be sending any and all donations over to Wounded Warrior Foundation. If you'd like to support the stream in that way, you can head over to the About section of the Twitch page. You can access the donation stuff from there, and we'll donate to Wounded Warrior on your behalf. There's obviously no obligation to do any of those. We're going to continue to deliver you guys this content the way that we have been for the last several episodes. But your proceeds do go directly to supporting all the efforts to the stream, and so we do appreciate it. So with those logistics out of the way, let's talk about a couple cyber insecurity stream specific stuff. So again, no guest for tonight. I do want to talk about Wednesday's guest. I am, again, super, super excited for Wednesday's guest. I'm always excited for all of our guests, obviously, as you can tell. We have talked on stream a lot of time, and you hear us joke, pretty frequently about like, oh, we're not a lawyer. We didn't play one on TV. Well, we have secured a cybersecurity lawyer. He is, and I'll save his name for when he comes on stream. I'll give you a little bit of his history now, but just kind of as a teaser for everybody, right? He was a lawyer out of Atlanta who led, if you remember, about 2 years ago when Atlanta had their massive ransomware incident that shut down a large portion of their city. He was the lawyer that was interacting with the FBI and DHS and city council and everything else like that, and was really kind of instrumental. I chatted with him 2 weeks ago before Carmen and I went on vacation, and he is super excited about being on the stream. He's very, very dynamic. If you enjoy the dynamics that existed in the stream in the past, you're going to continue to love having this gentleman on the stream. It's a rare opportunity. We've talked a ton about technology. We've had Carbon Black on the stream. We've had Crowdstrike on the stream. We've had, Anomaly on the stream. We're going to continue to have technologies on the stream, and it's going to be, it's going to be something that we continue to try to do. I just turned it up in 2x4. Let me know if that works a little bit better for you. We're going to continue to try to have, those technologies on the stream, but it's rare that we get to have somebody like a lawyer on the stream, somebody who can, kind of come on, give us a legal perspective, give us a legal view, help us to understand things from that legal perspective, and to really be able to answer some of those more nuanced questions that we brought up on the stream, especially around things like GDPR, things like CCPA and whatnot, that may not necessarily seem all that interesting, but understanding that legal purview and understanding, we can talk about the Twitter hacks, we can talk about how, cybercrime and things like that is viewed. Heck, I wouldn't be, I did ask him some pressing questions when it came to things like, what is it like to defend a cyber criminal, sort of thing. And so, excuse me, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, a very, very rare opportunity to talk to somebody who has spent a lot of time in our legal system, specifically working on cybersecurity things of interest. And so massive stream on Wednesday. So I look forward to having everybody here on stream on Wednesday and really putting this guy, to test as we, do our thing where we go through the news and talk about the news, and you guys get a chance to ask him questions. Speaking of streams, let's talk real quick about last Wednesday's stream, just while I've got everybody here. If you remember last Wednesday, we had Bill Nelson from Identity Fusion on the stream. I appreciate literally everybody messaging me after stream, either through DMs or on LinkedIn or anything else like that. The amount of feedback we got from having Bill on the stream, just from his presence, was awesome, let alone the folks who reached out to him on LinkedIn. He thanks all of you who reached out for him on LinkedIn and whatnot. So with that being said, we did give away something pretty amazing last week. Last week we had given away almost a $20,000 scholarship to his identity and access management practitioner course, and we'd done that through a giveaway that happened towards the end of the stream. Graham, I don't know if Graham is in stream now. I see him in chat. That I do see him in chat, so I'm not sure if he's a listener or not. Graham had won the giveaway that we had done last Wednesday. Graham was very, very modest in messaging Carmen and myself. And had relinquished his giveaway seat as it had as part of that. We thank him very much for his honesty and for his modesty in doing that. And so what we had done here on the cyber insecurity side is we had taken a snapshot of all the names of everybody who was eligible to win the giveaway, and we had re-rolled with Bill on the back end to see who would kind of take second runner up to Graham for that scholarship. And so I don't know if he's or she is in the stream right now or not, but if you see Pawn Muncher in stream, Pawn Muncher did win the second giveaway that we had for the Identity and Access Management Practitioner Program from Identity Fusion, and so much props to Pawn Muncher for that. But I did want to be transparent with literally everybody here as to what had happened post that. Again, I want to thank grats to Pawn Muncher for sure, but also massive thanks to Graham for your honesty and for your transparency and for your modesty and whatnot in giving that up. And so we all very much appreciate that. And so thank you very much for that. I want to talk about one more thing. Now that's the good part of it. I want to talk about one more thing, not related to Identity Fusion, but more related to just social media in general. And it kind of goes back to something that Roger and I brought up on the stream on Monday. And I debated for a couple days on, bringing this up because I struggled with myself in terms of how to approach it with you all from a community perspective. And so after a couple of days of thinking about it, I decided that I wanted to share it with you all, with the community and kind of talk about it with everybody. As part of what it is that I do to promote the stream, we do the videos, we do the live streams, we take the videos, we take the 2 hours, we spend literally about 8 hours per 2 hours of video to basically edit everything out and get them put into the snippets that then ultimately end up on the YouTube channel. Hey, look, some anonymous gifter gifted Graham a tier 1 sub. Thank you very much for that. So anyway, basic bottom line is a lot of work goes into putting those videos up on up on YouTube. Now, let's call a spade for a second, right? Is we have to do something to generate an audience so that you guys have other people that you can chat with, bounce ideas off of. It's part of growing that community. And so part of what I do then is I take those YouTube videos and I peruse Reddit, and I strategically try to place those videos into appropriate subreddits. That's part of my marketing strategy. That's not everything about my marketing strategy, but when we had General Williams on the other day, I took those videos from General Williams, like when we talked about, is the U.S. ready for cyber war? I thought that was a fantastic clip. It gave a lot of perspective from a 2-star general who literally advised the President of the United States on our strategic, cyber capabilities and whatnot. And I thought it was very interesting for the hacking, cybersecurity community to have access to that information as well. So long story longer, on top of that, kind of leading into this Wednesday stream with the 24th with our legal friend, I went into our cyber laws and kind of made a lead-in post that says, hey, look, just throwing this out here for everybody in our cyber laws. There's going to be a cyber lawyer on this stream. I didn't call it my stream or anything like that. I said there's going to be a cyber lawyer on this stream on the 24th. If you've got cyber law questions, now's a great opportunity. And I gave the individual's credentials that was going to be on the stream. Well, yours truly is now permabanned from our hacking, our cybersecurity, and our cybersecurity laws. Apparently, that was considered self-promotion. And it tipped all of the, not all of them, I shouldn't say all of them. I got one moderator so mad that when he or she permabanned me, I responded and was like, here are all the other subreddits that I participate in. Here is all of the other stuff that I do. Here is similar content that people post on the stream, to my content for informational purposes and whatnot. And after about one or two back and forths, this particular moderator now muted me from talking to any moderators of our cybersecurity for the next 28 days. So not only did they permaban me, but now they won't even listen to my grievances and appeals to try to get posting privileges back on any of those subreddits. So I don't say this to bitch to you guys and for you guys to ban, Reddit whatsoever. That's, you guys do whatever it is that you want to. What I want to convey to you is that the gatekeeping conversation that we had last Monday, not that I think that I'm some big shot in the industry or anything like that. I have been around for quite a bit, but that gatekeeping doesn't exist to whoever you think you are that's out there that thinks that gatekeeping is just for somebody like yourself. It's amazing how even on something like Reddit, I can't even, go out there and promote the content that this stream puts out because there are some people out there who even feel the need to gatekeep me. So yeah, it's politics. I don't really care. Quite honestly, you can ask Carmen. I was more like, wow, now I'm getting gatekeeped. Not that I am particularly proud of that, but it's just, I wanted to share that gatekeeping with you guys to say that it's not just you. Literally happens to me out there as well. And I've been in this industry for well over 25 years. If anybody, wants to do anything, then it's all up to you guys. However you want to do it on Reddit. Reddit's not a massive way that I get, viewers. I like to go into our NetSec students and try to help our NetSec students. We've done some on stream where we've actually brought our NetSec students up in here and, answered live, our NetSec student, questions here on stream and whatnot. But if there's those guys want to gatekeep that subreddit, then, that's fine. I appreciate all you guys' support as always. I just wanted to share that with you guys. So with that, I think, let's real quick, let's talk a couple logistics about the INE Cyberpass beta program. So for those who remember, a couple weeks before Carmen and I went on vacation, we did a giveaway for those who were in stream. We took their email addresses for participation in the beta for the INE Cyberpass. You can actually hit !beta inside of chat, and you can get the link now for the official beta sign-up pages. This is kind of the GA general premise beta stuff, so literally everybody can sign up for beta now. So for those who were in the CyberInsecurity kind of like founders beta, I do have new timelines for you. So September 14th, so this is literally just a week ago, the beta sign-up page went live, and so all of their marketing activities went live with all the marketing stuff. So right now they're in the gathering email phase. So I've had a lot of people email me, and I've had a lot of people, reach out to me on DMs and say that they haven't gotten an email from INE about the beta. That's because they haven't sent out the emails for beta access yet. That's not scheduled to happen until September 28th. So as of right now, September 28th is when the launch of beta access will happen. So I would imagine sometime in the next 7 days, you guys should be getting an email about that. And so then after that launch of beta happens, you'll have about 30 days. And so for those who are just hearing about the beta for the first time, the link's in there. Thank you very much for Therson and Nightbot for that. I've been working on a project for about 2 years now with a company called INE Training. They traditionally had done, Cisco, Microsoft, types of training, and they were pretty, they've got, I think 400 of the top 5 Fortune 500 clients that they were providing CCNA, MCSE, type training for. I've been working with them for the last 2 years now to help them develop their cybersecurity education strategy. Yes, it's in direct competition for, to other things that are out there like, the SANS Institute, OffSec, and things like that. And so for those who don't know, if you go look at my background, I spent, 5 years as a SANS instructor. And so intimately familiar with how that business model works and things like that. And so they had asked me to come on board and try to help them obviously build a competitive product to that. Liked their platform. They've got an amazing platform. They've got a great way of visualizing training, and it's going to be a way of looking at your cybersecurity career, not necessarily just focused on point certificates and things like that. They had purchased ELS, so eLearn Security. So if you hit exclamation point training, I think it is. Actually, don't do that yet, Theresen. Whoops. That was supposed to be a surprise for later. eLearn Security, they purchased them, which gave them access to a ton of cybersecurity content and whatnot. I got you, man. I got you. And so with that, they've got this massive portfolio of cybersecurity training that they're about to go live with as a kind of a redo of what they've acquired from eLearn Security. Anyway, all of that's just kind of backstory and blah 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 and things like that. Anyway, it's gonna be an awesome platform for you to get some fantastic cybersecurity training. And so what this beta is going to do is this beta is going to give you access to a penetration testing course. It's not going to be OSCP. It's not going to be, OSCP on steroids. It's very much going to be pen testing 101. And really that course is there to test the system, right? It is a beta, so we need to beat the heck out of the hardware and the servers. We need to find, all the issues that are there with the labs and with the courses and things like that. And so I want you guys to be amazing beta testers, but for the 30 days that you get access to the platform, it's 30 days of having beta access to a real penetration testing course and labs that you can play and have some fun with. And so hopefully we'll see those invites go out in the next 7 days. You'll have about 30 days to test that platform before it kind of goes. It would not surprise me if beta testing takes a little bit longer, just from what I've seen already. So, I'm in their Slack channel. I'm intimately involved with them. So I'll be able to continue to give updates either via the stream whenever we do the stream. Also, you can DM me directly if you want some updates or things like that. But the beta sign up is there in chat, and so everybody on stream's got access to this. So everybody on stream go sign up for the beta, and we'll hopefully we get everybody in there as much as possible. One more thing about the stream, and the only reason I bring this up is because I did see somebody say it on Wednesday when the stream started. Sorry, we've got a lot of CyberInsecurity news updates before we get into the live news for tonight. Somebody logged onto the stream last Wednesday, and I saw them come into chat, and they said that Twitch felt the need to show them a Best Buy ad. Over the last 15 days, I don't know how much anybody pays attention to Twitch news and things like that, but over the last 15 to 20 days, Twitch has been playing with this new mid-roll advertisement strategy where randomly inside of my stream, they're going to just throw advertisements at you. It's been horrid because I as a streamer have no control over those advertisements whatsoever. I can talk, and then if it's your time to get an advertisement, you're going to get literally an advertisement in the middle of what I'm saying, and you may miss key important pieces of information. They have since disabled those, at least here recently. So now everybody should only be getting ads when they first get into the stream. In terms of like what we refer to as pre-roll ads. But I wanted to let everybody know that I am watching that advertisement stuff unfold, especially as it pertains to streamers. And I just want to give everybody fair warning that if Twitch goes back to doing these random mid-stream ads, they're basically forcing streamers to forcibly run ads for our audience. At random intervals during our stream. And so Carmen and I will sit down and we'll look at the stream and we'll look at how to break the stream down so that it's the least intrusive to all of you as a viewer. Anybody who wants to complain to Twitch about it, please feel free to go pick it and whatnot to Jeff Bezos and the Amazon gods, and tell them that pre-roll ads suck, or that the midstream ads suck and things like that. But I just kind of wanted to, just as a fairness and a level of transparency to everybody here, that if you see something like that happen in the next 30 days or so, it's just because us as streamers, we've lost a lot of our control in terms of running ads and things like that. So. All right. Carmen's on point with deleting bots, I see. Good job. All right, cool. Let's run into, now we can finally run into the news. I apologize everybody with that. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure everybody was kind of aware of that. And so you can see that Nightbot is way more active inside of chat. We're going to continue to add some commands to Nightbot. You can hit #trollbot anytime you want to, and Nightbot will give you, some of the latest and greatest kind of bot commands that are out there. One of the very, very first things, and I see Vordor asking for a referral code. Very astute of you to view Vordor. So first and foremost, there is a referral code, and again, if you hit !training at any point in time during the stream, Nightbot will tell you about it. For the training out there. But literally just starting today, eLearn Security is starting to do 35% off any of their courses if you use this coupon code right here. So you don't have to keep this up. You don't have to have it right now. Nightbot's in there right now, so you can hit !training, and Nightbot will tell you, is it training? Uh-oh, did I mess that one up? Yeah, it is training. Yeah, !training. Nightbot will tell you about that discount code, but you can use that off 35% off for any of the eLearn Security courses. So make sure you take advantage of that if you're interested in taking any of their courses. One of the things of note, you can see they do comment down here. If they use this discount, will apply to the INE Cybersecurity Pass coming soon, or the two not be overlapping. So this is exclusive just to the to the ELS courses that are being offered right now. This will not apply to the INE Cyberpass that all of you are going to be beta testing. Hopefully all of you are going to be beta testing for us in the future. And so this is an opportunity to get 35% off of any of those courses that you want to. So if you're not following eLearn Security, make sure you go follow eLearn Security. Also, make sure you go follow at INE. If I can remember what they're... There it is. At INE Training. Make sure you go follow these guys too, with their lovely 61 followers. That's the company that ultimately ended up buying eLearn Security, and we'll be doing the cybersecurity training from eLearn Security moving forward. Will there be the beta pass in sometime available? So the beta, you can actually go now if you hit !beta. You can actually get the link for the beta pass, the beta version of the Cyberpass, and you can sign up for it there. There you go. Okay, on to some news for today. This is literally fresh off the presses today. Over 500,000 Activision accounts may have been hacked in a new data breach. So this hit the news today, allegedly just happened yesterday. So anybody out there who's Call of Duty fans, who's playing, Hearthstone from Blizzard, World of Warcraft, Heroes of the Storm, Diablo, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, any of that stuff, I would highly recommend you go out there and change your Activision accounts because they got popped yesterday. We don't have any details as to how it happened, why it happened, or anything like that, but somebody did notice there was a large sale of credentials being leaked publicly online. They did say that they were doing some account changes. This kind of corresponds, if you remember a couple weeks back, I do believe that we talked about, there were a large number of Activision accounts that were being bought and sold by traders online. So looks like that is, kind of more follow on to that Activision account hack. So we won't harp on this one too much because we don't know the details, but if you got an Activision account, go out there and get it changed. Speaking of attacks, now this is another one that I I don't want to say I sat on, but I wanted to make sure we talked about the right thing, right? And so it's a big, huge headline, right, where it talks about a patient dies after a ransomware attack hits a hospital. Now, this is obviously a pretty damning news article, right? You don't get much more, in your face than this. This is a hard story to talk about, right? So let's level set. A woman was in a hospital in Dusseldorf when it got hit by a ransomware attack. They could no longer provide her care, and so they had to transport her via ambulance from that hospital to one that was much, much further away, and she ended up dying en route. So let's demystify kind of the oh my god headline that everybody likes to kind of jump into. And it wasn't like a piece of malware or a piece of ransomware shut down the life support system she was on and killed her there on the spot. It wasn't like some attackers went in there and said, I'm going to kill this woman, she is a target, we're going to increase her insulin by 5,000%. This is a second order effect. So in the military terminology, we would use this as a second order effect because the ransomware attack forced them to have to transport a patient to a different hospital where she died en route because of that transportation. Now, that absolutely is in no way an attempt to downplay the severity of this, but I just want to make sure we're calling a spade a spade. The German authorities are looking to call this one negligent manslaughter, because it does fall kind of into that realm. It wasn't premeditated. It's not murder. It's manslaughter. And so this is, with all of that being said, this is still scary. I see, Vorder, very much so. It is still crazy. It is still scary. It does still show potential kinetic or potential physical effects that could be had as a result of a cybersecurity event happening in something like a hospital. Quite honestly, here's where I stand on this. I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. If we think about, ransomware is not new. It's not a 2020 thing. It's not a coronavirus thing or anything like that. We've had ransomware that we've had to deal with for quite a long time. And so I'm actually more surprised that this hasn't happened sooner. I think it's actually a testament to most of the hospital system's ability to figure out that they need to transport people or to handle people, if they have a failure of a medical system at hospital A, can they get person to hospital B, and do they have the means to do that inside of an ambulance or something like that as they do transport, or even in a life flight helicopter. It's going to be interesting to see the media really, really latch onto this and talk about ransomware killing a patient. I want everybody to understand as well, too, right? I spent a number of years working for a life sciences company that made a lot of medical device equipment for things like diabetes, insulin pumps, other pacemakers, other parts of life supporting technology. And it is a real, a real concern every single time, that product gets sold, or every single time there's a vulnerability that gets released. I can't even begin to tell you how, when I was working for this organization, whenever the Bluetooth vulnerabilities came out, when the Intel vulnerabilities came out, the immediate first question that we always had to answer to the CIO and to the CISO, right, is how does this affect our medical devices and things like that? And so there is a lot of concern when it comes to medical device companies making sure that their devices are capable of withstanding some form of intentional cyber attack. Without knowing any of the in-depth details, whether this was a piece of ransomware on her particular equipment, whether it was a ransomware on something like the Epic system that stores all of our patient records, whatever the case is, there's some of those details that are kind of left out of a lot of this. But I would be surprised if this was also a function of that, whatever particular piece of life-saving equipment that she was attached to could no longer provide that life-saving capability to her. It was probably some systemic problem with the hospital. Be that as it may, if they ever catch this individual or individuals, whatever this is, I would be really interesting to see how the the legal system stands up to this. As a matter of fact, this may be a question we ask, our guest on Wednesday, is if they can, if that guest can provide us kind of like, if this were to happen in the United States, what would kind of be the legal process, or, what would they do to look to try to, to try to enforce this negligent manslaughter, negligent homicide, I think is what it would be in the U.S., if this were happening here. But I did want to kind of bring that one up. Fordor says, the crazy thing is that just happened to a local university hospital here yesterday, and they weren't expecting to be 100% for another day or two. Yeah, I think hospitals, we've come to find that hospitals are completely ill-prepared for most cyber attacks. I've done a lot of penetration testing and a lot of advising for hospitals, and hospitals struggle with, university hospitals particularly, struggle with two things that I think make them vulnerable to it. Number one, funding is a massive issue. The university already itself struggles with funding, even in its main courses. But then when you look at the hospital on top of that, even the hospital continues to struggle with funding. And so there's a constant battle inside of hospitals where they have to choose between, do I spend my money on making my hospital more state-of-the-art, or do I spend my money on cybersecurity? And we all know in that game, cybersecurity loses 9 times out of 10. The second thing actually has nothing to do with the hospital and has more to do with the university, and it's incredibly infuriating. Now, I don't know how many people in chat have been to university, either in the States or overseas, but think about your university experience. On campus, you got Wi-Fi everywhere on campus. You can connect anything. You've got access to, servers and information, and it's this free flowing, microcosm of information that exists within the bounds of the university. That culture, if you will, of university is groomed and garnered and enforced and really pushed hard by the leadership at the university, because that's the culture that they want to make sure that university has. And so with that culture, if you imagine coming in as a cybersecurity professional, whether you're a CISO or director level, or even at the individual contributor level, and you come in and say, well, I want to do something like lock down USB ports on systems, or I want to lock down ports on firewalls, or I want to, I want my proxy to block sexually explicit, material, things like that. I have sat in those rooms with the boards of directors of universities where they have said that under no uncertain terms would they ever restrict any access to any information at all in a university, because it was counter to their university culture. And so, yes, I think that universities, this is why, at least when I think back to my military days, working, on offensive strategies and things like that from the military side, this is why universities were such a huge target for us when we talked about targeting, things overseas where we had to gain access to systems to use as jump boxes and things like that. And when we think about what our adversaries do to us, university systems are ripe with that because they have almost zero protections in place just because of the culture and the nature in which they try to do their business and whatnot. So higher ed, if anybody's looking for roles in higher ed, I implore you, if you can do good in those jobs, I'm envious of you, but I'll send you well wishes and motivational quotes on a daily basis, because I can't even begin to imagine how hard that is for you on a day-to-day basis to have to deal with higher ed. There was a dude a few years back who designed a system and advised them of vulnerabilities. They did nothing, so he locked down the system too. Yeah. Whose heads will roll at the hospital university? That's interesting. I don't know if anybody's heads will roll. I think you'll end up in a finger pointing game where the CISO is like, you didn't give me budget, and the board is like, well, we're not going to lock everything down. And I think you'll end up in a finger pointing game, quite honestly, when it comes to that. When I was in higher ed, they called it academic freedom. Yeah. They very much call it academic freedom. It's insane, and I think it runs very, very counter to our cybersecurity mission. That doesn't mean to say that it's not impossible to do cybersecurity on a university, but you get really, really good at some very political terms like leading through influence, which basically means you have zero positional authority. You have to convince everybody to see your way. And so you spend your entire tenure as CISO there, basically doing politics, trying to convince everybody to see your way on things. So if anybody ever says to you in a job interview that you're going to lead through influence, that means you have zero power whatsoever. Moving on to kind of another topic that I want to kind of string together a couple of other topics tonight outside of the news. So that's really about it from a news perspective that I thought was worthwhile to bring up to everybody here. I kind of want to talk about a general threat management trend, and this is more me delivering some new cool information, things that I've seen to you here in the last couple days, more than it is kind of talking about the news and whatnot. So I want to kind of revisit the threat intelligence conversation that we had a couple months ago with Anomaly, and then shortly after the DEF CON CTF and whatnot. And again, you know me, I try to keep things very, very high level on the stream. We don't talk about politics. We don't try to get into any more of those political conversations than we absolutely have to. The next thing I'm about to show you is literally, again, not to get into politics, but it's to show you just some of the cool things that we're doing inside the industry, and for you to have that information at your fingertips. But Risk IQ, if you're not familiar with Risk IQ has a community edition. I would highly encourage everybody to go sign up for the Risk IQ Community Edition. We'll put that into chat so that you got it. If we may do a poll if anybody wants me to dive a little deeper into this, but if you're not familiar with all of the threat intelligence vendors that have community editions of their product for you to go participate in, we can absolutely have that conversation, and I can show you some of the ones that I subscribe to and things like that. But you should, if you're interested in this field, even if you're not in threat intelligence as a business, even if you're not doing specifically blue team or specifically red team, if you're just interested in having knowledge at your fingertips, you should have a login to every community edition of every threat intelligence vendor that's out there. Anomaly, Threat Connect, Risk IQ, you name it, you should have an account there. So that's a different conversation into X4. Let's we'll dive into that here in a little bit, right? So Risk IQ specifically, the reason that they're awesome, and so I've deployed Risk IQ at almost every Fortune company that I've been to, and I utilize them on my own company when I do my own personal threat intelligence platform, is they have a ton of information on domains, DNS, certificate information. They've been tracking DNS information for literally years. And I can kind of walk through a little bit of the demo here on their website. You can see I'm rocking the enterprise trial, just with my relationships and things like that. But they've got tons of domain information. So let's say that you're looking at logs and you see a domain, and you want to put that domain into something because you want to find out when that domain stood up, right? Because domain age is a real thing, right? And domain age is important when you're thinking about, like, is this a new campaign? Did somebody in marketing do this? Is this something that somebody, is targeting me with it? But domain age is super important. They also track certificates. They also track IP addresses. They track web addresses. They track a ton of information specifically around IPs and domains. And you can see that one of the things that they've started doing here in this link, for those who are looking for the chat easy version of it, right, is they're tracking all of the presidential candidates, and they're looking at all domains and host names that contain the last name of each of the candidates, and watching as the trends kind of go up and down. And I imagine this has to correlate with kind of the new news articles that we're seeing, about an increase in attacks, especially as we come up on the U.S. elections. And so you can kind of see this. You can see it allows you to do some selectable, kind of things, that are happening down here. We're going to take out the people who, aren't really kind of, really heavy hitters. But you can see here, like, when you look at, Biden domains, in this case, how there's been a cyclical increase, then a decrease, then an increase, then a decrease on Biden host versus, Trump host here. You can see how it was kind of down, and then there was a spike in here. And I would venture to say, and this would be savvy for somebody out there, is when there was this spike of Trump hosts, did that correlate with kind of that news article that talked about an increase in the number of Russian attempted hacks, as part of the election, that was going on? And so just kind of an interesting way to view different parts of the election data. You can come down here, scroll to the bottom. They do have a link to their Risk IQ to go to their community account with pre-solved links. So one of the things that they're doing inside of Risk IQ is they've got this campaign 2020 tag. So up here at the top, when you do the search, you can search for tags. This is the tag that they're using as campaign 2020 here. And so you can see that they've got different types of domains that are listed here that have been registered using those names. You can see all the tags that were differently used in top of this. And so what you ultimately want to do with this, and it depends ultimately on your organization, but let's say that you've got a SIM, right, where you're collecting all your log source and event data that's going on out there. You want to be able to be less reactive and more proactive. I think that's always our strategy when we talk about things from a blue team perspective is we don't want to respond to threats more than we want to try to prevent attacks from happening to us. And so seeing this type of proactive measure, especially leading up to the campaign, if you've been watching this stream or following the news, you can always see that due to any global event, there's going to be an increase in cyber attacks. We see it with COVID, right? We've all seen the number of COVID attacks rise because of COVID. We are going to see the number of phishing campaigns go up as a result of people targeting U.S. citizens or U.S. companies or U.S. entities as a result of the election. And so ultimately what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to take this data from Risk IQ, you want to be able to export it somewhere and import it into some of your defensive mechanisms that you have in your organization so that you can then use this data to try to distinguish good from bad inside of your organization so that when you get that indicator, you can either stop that phishing email or stop that command and control traffic, or something like that ahead of time. And so that's the value of the data that comes from any of these threat intelligence vendors. And I thought this was awesome to share with you guys because this was something where Risk IQ was like, I want a forward look about the next potential threat, that the next potential increase of phishing attacks or domain squatting or things like that could happen. And so I want to get ahead of that and try to provide data that could help organizations kind of slow down or prevent or reduce some of that phishing or malicious activity that could happen in their organization. So that's the reason why I bring this up. To your point, in 2x4, when it comes to the how do I use this, honestly, the best way to and I know that this sounds ridiculously cliche, and so don't roll your eyes when I say it, but really just poke around with stuff. Most of these sites, and I can bring up Threat Connect here to kind of show you literally how similar, things like Risk IQ and Threat Connect are from just like a UI design perspective are. Wasn't me, Crumbs. I promise it wasn't me. Did not do it. Have some type of panel like this where they have, some information about something that's going on out there. Simply start with that. Rampant Kitten and Iranian espionage campaign. You can click on that and you can start to familiarize yourself with things like tags, right? So you can search for APT, you can search for checkpoint, but then you can even see public indicators down here. So these are indicators that, in this case, were given to them by VirusTotal, Hybrid Analysis, some IPs, but you can see Risk IQ indicators here, which were specific to things that Risk IQ is looking into. And so you can open up like whatsapp.co, and this is that indicator that I was telling you about where you've got, this is the domain that Risk IQ is tracking, and you can see the history, the heat map basically of how long Risk IQ has been tracking this domain, and you can see that their first seen indicator of it happened way back here on 2/19/2020, and you can see all of the, I can point to it up in the left-hand corner, you see all the IP addresses that are associated with it, all the resolutions and things like this. And so this is what I mean by having just a treasure trove of domain and IP information for any particular type of domain that happens to be coming into your organization. You can obviously get like the registrar and the registrant, and if it had, if it's got whois data associated with it, then obviously you can use the whois data here. So imagine this is just a ton of DNS information just really there at your fingertips when it comes to Risk IQ. Honestly, when it comes to just trying anything, I would just simply just start rolling into their portal, and you just roll in there with like some google.com, right? Hopefully this doesn't fail me. Is this always a manual query, or are you correlating this feed automatically with like a SIM? Most of these threat intelligence vendors do have an API. Or even in the case of Splunk, they do have Splunk apps that do automatically query their API to pull that data into their SIM. It's kind of look at it's two different levels. You want to use the API and you want to use the automated feed with it to correlate your automatic alerts and your automatic notables that you would be getting inside of your SIM. You use the manual queries whenever you want to do a manual deep dive investigation on a particular indicator. Let's say that you get an indicator that, because you don't have Risk IQ going into your SIM for whatever reason, none of your other threat intelligence sources have any information on that indicator, you would come over to Risk IQ from a manual query perspective, and you would query that indicator inside of Risk IQ and see what you got from that. Mornwind, excellent comment there in terms about using Risk IQ. And Australia was never heard from again. Yep. Okay, so cool. So that's Risk IQ. Got the link in there here if you're interested in some of the campaign observables, and it's a great way to get started playing around with Risk IQ, especially in something. This is what we would refer to as finished intelligence. They've gathered all these domains and host names, and they've presented them into a finalized format. So this is refined intelligence. You're looking at what would unequivocally be an intelligence product right here, that you can use. And so Risk IQ gets a thumbs up from the Cyber team. Speaking of cool reports-ish, and we'll throw this one in here. Hopefully this gets you past the send us your email so we can try to sell you on CrowdStrike wall. Hopefully that works. Hey Ant-Man, welcome to the stream. What's happening? But CrowdStrike just recently released their 2020 threat hunting report. Insights from the CrowdStrike Overwatch team. If you remember a couple months back, we had Tori on stream from CrowdStrike. She was here talking about EDR and endpoint and things like that. Overwatch is CrowdStrike's managed services team, if you will. They, if you engage Overwatch, then they watch your console kind of after a fashion. Really what it is it's like, without giving away too much about how CrowdStrike works, because I don't know what's covered under NDA and what's not. All of CrowdStrike basically runs on a giant Splunk platform, believe it or not, in the back end. And so what they've done is they've created threat hunts that they then run across all of their client sets, Splunk environments. And that's basically their Overwatch team, is a massive threat hunting team that runs across the Splunk backend that operates all of CrowdStrike. They released their threat hunting report. This is their methodology. I hate it. We're not going to even talk about it because I think it's not very good. What I wanted to kind of drill down into was, obviously this is a visual that kind of talks about the increased number of attacks first half of 2020. I think it goes without saying that we all can feel that on a day-to-day basis in our day-to-day jobs from a cybersecurity perspective. This just helps visualize it. This next chart, though, is the one that I really, really want to kind of harp on. When we look at the type of threats that have increased over the first half of the year, and I think Tori reiterated this when she was on stream, and so this is just kind of a visualization of that conversation, is when you look at, these three things, state-sponsored, unattributed, and e-crime stuff, of course, you're going to see an increase towards Q3 and Q4, because this would be for those who are non-American, when we see things like Black Friday and Christmas shopping and things like that going on. We always expect to see an increase in e-crime and cyber attacks during, Q3 and Q4. But you can see Q1 and things spike pretty tremendously as everybody tries to take advantage from an e-crime perspective of the new COVID threats. And even over the course of the quarter, you can see it's only been a marginal decline. I think this is a visualization that kind of indicates that spread between e-crime and everything else. But what's interesting is the state-sponsored line has remained relatively steady state. So what you can read by that is really the only folks who are abusing, if you will, or the majority of folks who are abusing kind of this COVID time period is really the ransomware writers, the e-crime syndicates and things like that. And a lot of you may be saying like, well, yeah, duh, Neil, we knew this. But if you remember to some of the conversations we're having in terms of how to talk to your leadership and how to talk to maybe some of your peers in IT, this may be one of those charts that may help you, show them how, the threat has nothing to do with China from a state-sponsored perspective, and how we need to be focused on a lot of the commodity threats like ransomware, Imitet's back and things like that. So now to kind of pick apart this methodology, this is CrowdStrike's marketing campaign at its finest. And Tori, if you're listening, Tori, if I can ever convince you to come back on the stream after I make this statement, this is one of the things that I hate about CrowdStrike right here, is that they spend a lot of time doing marketing, and yeah, it's cool, it's catchy, it makes sense, but it's incredibly complicated. One of the things, if you're interested in building a threat hunting team inside of your organization, there was this very, very small company that got bought by Amazon a number of years ago called Squirrel. SQRRL. Their website's now gone. They've now been absorbed by the Borg that is Amazon, but you can still find out there their white paper, and I'll link it here so that you've got it. But they tried very hard to create this idea of a publicly facing, threat hunting framework. They tried to create an entire platform, if you will, around doing threat hunting and things like that. These guys are amazing. And when you look at this, when you go down and actually look through their white paper when they talk about it, they very much have written this for all of us as practitioners and for us as implementers, for us to basically be able to take this and turn around to our organizations and use this as a roadmap to build a threat hunting capability inside of our organizations. One of my biggest pet peeves when I talk to cybersecurity practitioners is their definition of threat hunting. I have been in Team Overwatch search, yeah, kind of like a video game, yeah. When I've talked to other practitioners, right, and I ask them if they're doing threat hunting, they're like, yeah, we're doing threat hunting. I'm like, cool, tell me what your threat hunting methodology is. And they're like, well, we open up Splunk or SIM, whatever you want to use. We open up Splunk and we put an IP address in there and we hunt for that IP address inside of our network. Okay, so you just put in an indicator in the search bar and you look for that indicator across all of your log feeds. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's your definition of threat hunting. They're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's not threat hunting. And so, if that's what you're doing for threat hunting, I'm sorry if I burst anybody's bubble. Maybe I should have went for spoiler alert before I said that. But if that is what you're doing for threat hunting, you're not doing threat hunting, okay? You are searching for indicators. That's not threat hunting. And so Squirrel has given us kind of this framework, if you will, to kind of visualize from start to finish how we can build and grow a threat hunting model. And they've actually got this hunting maturity model here where they talk about it from level 0 to initial all the way up to leading when it comes to threat hunting. And so this is a great way to gauge yourself. You can kind of come down here and they break down each of the different steps of the threat hunting model. You can see here it talks about relying primarily on, alerting tools like your IDS and SIM to detect malicious activity in the enterprise, incorporating feeds and things like this. And so you can use this document. And this, like I said, this is where I really think it gets key here is this is the hunting loop. This is really what we're talking about when we talk about building out, a threat hunting program. Ant-Man, it might be on cooldown. There you go. We implore the video game concept of a cooldown in here. So the threat hunting loop here, this is really what we talk about when we talk about the methodology behind doing a threat hunt, right? Is do you create a hypothesis? Do you investigate it via tools and techniques? Then do you uncover those new patterns and new TTPs as part of that? And then do you use that in a full cycle to then inform and enrich the analytics that you currently have in place? This right here, this is what I think is the answer to the question of, like, are you doing threat hunting? Your hypothesis, and this is where, this is when we talk about tools that are implementing the MITRE framework, and when we talk about tools that are like Sentinel-1 or Carbon Black that are trying to show you the fancy graphics about where this particular piece of malware or TTP exists on the MITRE framework. This, I think, is what the real value of the MITRE attack framework is because you can take a piece of APT that has been mapped out through MITRE, and you can develop a hypothesis based on that TTP that says, well, I'm a pharmaceutical company. We're working on a vaccine for COVID-19. Who are my most likely threat actors? So this is called threat modeling. Your threat actor may be Fancy Bear, or it may be, some other Chinese, another Chinese malware or something like that. And you can go through the MITRE attack framework and you can look and see what Fancy Bear tactics and techniques are used. And so then you can develop a hypothesis based on what Fancy Bear, TTPs are, and say, okay, well, I want to know, do I detect any event type 1, 2, 3, 4 inside of my network? So then this is where you would then go to your tools and techniques, go to your EDR, go to your SIM, go to, your Windows log data and test to see if you can see those things based on those TTPs. You may find some stuff, you may not, who knows? But whether you do or don't, as long as you make that full circle loop all the way back around so that you can then inform and enrich your analytics, that is threat hunting. And that's very much what I want everybody to kind of walk away from this is, if you walk away with anything when it comes to our conversation of threat hunting, is that you're probably doing it wrong, and that's okay. Let me help you do it right or better. Not necessarily to say that I'm always right, but look at something like this and actually create for yourself a maturity model and a framework with which you can do something in a very proceduralized fashion. I think you'll find your threat discovery is much more comprehensive when you do it this way. If you're not familiar, with threathunting.net, fantastic archive, lots of good information there. I linked it into chat for anybody who's interested in that. So, speaking of hunting threats, U.S. government has ordered federal agencies to patch the dangerous Xero Login bug on Monday. So I did have somebody reach out to me on Twitter and asked me to kind of cover some nuances and whatnot over Xero Login. I was going to cover it anyway, but I do think that this is one of those times where I want to focus on some very specific things about Xero Login. So for those who aren't fully aware of Xero Login, this was a bug that was discovered actually a couple months back relating to a protocol that was known as RPC. So for those who are not super technical, or for those who are not, very, very, much on the offensive side, we're going to get a little deep. So stretch, get ready to receive some information, strap in a little bit on this one because we're going to dive a little deep on this one. If you've ever done an Nmap scan on a Windows box. There are 3 ports that you can almost always count on being open on any Windows box. Run of the mill, doesn't matter what it is. 135, 137, and 445. All of those ports have been around since Windows was Windows 90, was Windows NT, was Windows 3.1. This concept of RPC, or remote procedure call, was set forth back in the old days of Windows, and it was actually at its heart. If you think about it, this is where the idea of cloud computing or cluster computing, really kind of made its name for itself, right? And people want to knock Bill Gates, but he was really a visionary in the sense that if a Windows workstation that was a part of a domain or not a part of the domain, it didn't really matter, needed to process something that was data intensive heavy, and it was on a work group with another computer that had 135 and 137 open, it could reach out over that work group through what we refer to now as like networking neighborhood, right? That Microsoft built-in capability. It was something else way back in the day. And it would actually use that networking neighborhood capability to say, hey, look, I need to process this data. Can I send you some calculations and use some of your cycles to process some of this data too? And it would actually use that remote procedure call functionality inside of Windows to make that call out so that it could then actually use the power of 2 computers to process large amounts of data inside of a network. It was pretty ingenious for its time, and it really kind of made for why we joke about Beowulf clusters in the Unix environment and things like that. But it really was how Windows was trying to solve that cluster compute problem that Unix machines were having to solve by being on a bus network or being on a token ring network, or having to create a Beowulf cluster to do some of these heavy compute problems. And I may be really aging myself by talking about Beowulf clusters. I don't know if I've completely lost everybody with this or not. We're a mainframe, but not. Yes, Shamu, you're exactly right. So RPC has been around forever. It is an amazing capability. Now you can primarily see RPC being used, to send commands to other computers, to do WMIC instructions. Although I think WMIC may have actually moved to 445. It may have moved to FSMB. I may actually be wrong on WMIC. But that general concept of offloading, work tasks and things like that, and sending commands to other computers and whatnot, that's primarily what RPC is there for. So what somebody has been able to do is and we're not going to hash through all of the details of the vulnerability. That's a different conversation, and we really want to focus on some different aspects of this one. But somebody has found a way to basically, through a form of a buffer overflow exploit, do what's referred to as a local privilege escalation, to get from a normal user to a domain admin in this case, on a domain controller through that RPC functionality. And so this is at CVE 2020-1472. I think the question that was asked to me in Twitter was specifically about if I thought, with RPC being the way that it was, and with secure RPC potentially on the horizon, next year, what do I think kind of the applicability of something like Xero Login would be as we migrate away from RPC and into secure RPC. And so to that, the first answer that I want to, hopefully that person's in chat and listening, kind of the first answer that I want to say to that is, how long have we been talking about, encrypted DNS and DNS, secure DNS and things like that? We've been talking about that for years. We've been talking about IP6 for years. I don't think that we will actually see an implementation of secure RPC, in any type of fashion that would necessarily reduce the risk in most organizations of this particular type of RPC vulnerability. And especially, I go back to some of the conversations we've had about manufacturing lines and older operating systems and organizations in their patch process. I I think this is one of those things when we talk about from a pen tester perspective, looking at tools that we need to add to the toolbox to be successful penetration testers. This is one that we need to add to the toolbox. And so let's talk about how to do that. If you were not aware, this code has been made publicly available by these guys at Secura BV. They've got a Xero Login tester.python. Now, one of the things that I kind of want to talk about real quick, right, is vulnerability hype, right? CISA coming out and saying, by Monday, we want every system patched sounds pretty extreme. And I'm not trying to knock whether it is extreme or it is not extreme. It is a CVS 10 of 10. It is a pretty extreme vulnerability. But I want to make sure that everybody who's listening, and this may be hashtag unpopular opinion, and I'm okay with that, is actually using a very practical lens when having conversations with folks about something like this Xero Login vulnerability. This is what happens when I monologue a little bit. I can get a little dry throat. Security guru guy's usually here to remind me to drink. Forgot about that. Prior to some of the stuff that I'm going to show you here in a little bit, when Xero Login was first talked about and was first released, and even when Secura released their first proof of concept code, I don't think anybody actually ever looked at the proof of concept code. I think you had a whole bunch of pen testers that ran out, downloaded the proof of concept code, and said, see, you're vulnerable to this. You must patch all your stuff right now, because if you're not, you're going to get pawned tomorrow. And that's what happens in the security world. We get so hyped up about things like this. We get so hyped up about proof of concept code being leaked to the internet that we run out and it becomes a Chicken Little, the sky is falling type of mentality. But one of the things that I think did not get taken into consideration was, not only the lack of other proof of concept code that was out there, but I don't think anybody actually looked at this proof of concept code to determine what this particular piece of code was doing. So just to kind of have that conversation, I wanted to do it here on stream because I want to hopefully help everybody understand how we need to be just a little bit more disciplined when we have this conversation, especially inside of our organizations. So first and foremost, this code is written in Python, okay? That right there should tell you everything that you need to know about the exploitability of this vulnerability when this code first came out, right? I'm not talking about right now, and I'm going to show you some stuff that's changed literally within the last 24 hours to make this conversation irrelevant, but I want to talk about like how we reduce that hype when these vulnerabilities are first dropped, right? So Python right there means that you would have had to have a Kali box on that network or some other type of Linux box on that network with Python installed to be able to throw it a domain controller to even test this code to see if it worked. Furthermore, if an attacker were to use this piece of Python code, they would then have to get the Python libraries onto that box or have something compiled from Python to executable to get onto that box in hopes that it would work inside of that environment. The second thing is that it does import from the Impacket libraries. And so you are going to have to make sure that you've got, on whatever Linux boxes inside that network, you've got the Impacket libraries that are on there, because that's not a standard. That's not standard in any Ubuntu. That's not standard in any Unix, installation. It's definitely not standard on any Windows box whatsoever. And so that right there should say that this is not a case of Chicken Little, the sky is falling, or it was not the case when this tool was first released. This was not a case of the sky is falling. And I think that's one of the big things that we need to be more responsible about as cybersecurity professionals when we see these types of vulnerabilities, because we run to IT folks and we run to CISOs and we run to CIOs and we complain so hard about how the sky is falling, when in reality the ability to execute this attack requires so many steps and is so much more complicated than what actually happens out there. So that's kind of point number one that I wanted to make with this is, if you're a pen tester, if you're a threat analyst, if you're an incident responder, make sure you're being a little bit more responsible whenever these massive vulnerabilities kind of come out there. Now, with that being said, here about 3 days ago, now this is where I would actually have that conversation with my teams and say, okay, now we actually may have a bigger problem than, we did 2 weeks ago when this was first released, right? You can see Gentile Wiki, he does a lot of the Mimikatz repository stuff. You can see that he has added in Mimikatz capability into Mimikatz. You can see LSA dump, Xero Login. He targets a domain controller inside of his test environment, and he's able to detect vulnerability to LSA inside of his environment. The reason this is so important, right? The reason this is slightly more significant than what it was before is Mimikatz is still one of the most highly modifiable pieces of memory injected code that's out there. If you remember, Joe was on here a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Mimikatz, and especially if your organization isn't running EDR, doesn't have any type of high-fidelity EDR alerts set up, or any of your NGAV capabilities aren't set up to look for any behavioral analytics and whatnot, you're going to miss Mimikatz being injected. So to level set with everybody here, Mimikatz is a common pen testing tool. It basically injects itself into the LSAS, Local Security Authority, something else. For the most of the default installations, your creds when you log into a machine, whether it's a local account or a domain account, it has to decrypt those creds that are being stored in the SAM database and store them somewhere so that they can then be passed over the network through, SMB or RPC or anything like that. And so LSAS is basically what stores all of your creds in clear text on a box, whenever you're on it. And this is irrespective of whether it's a domain account or a local account, it doesn't really matter. Theracent is basically a cred stealer. Thank you for the LSAS definition. Yeah, local security authority, something. And so Mimikatz, when it came out, basically was able to inject itself in the LSAS DLL and basically make queries inside of LSAS DLL as if it was a legitimate Windows process to basically say, hey, give me all of your your secrets, basically give me all your unencrypted passwords that you're storing in LSAS, and boom, Bob's your uncle. You have unencrypted credentials that you're getting out of Mimikatz. It's very, very effective. It's very awesome. It's a almost 100% success rate unless you're doing some advanced Kerberos manipulation and things like that in your environment. As a result of that, a lot of e-crime tools have taken Mimikatz and modified Mimikatz to make it more evasive, and have actually packaged it into their e-crime kits. I've actually done several incident response engagements whereby even something as simple as a crypto miner is using LSAS to basically dump all of the credentials inside of an organization, and then it would then take those credentials and use those to move laterally throughout the network to propagate their crypto mining inside of an organization. When they packaged up WannaCry during the WannaCry incident, it was using Mimikatz. It was packaged with a Mimikatz downloader so that it would get those credentials to use later on and whatnot inside of the environment. So Mimikatz is a very real threat out there. And so now that we actually see Gentile Wiki adding in Xero Login capability in Mimikatz, now is one of those times where it's like, okay, if you've been sitting on this is exactly why CISA has come out and says, okay, we've got to have this patched by Monday, because Mimikatz is still one of the big threats that are out there to organizations. I see some questions coming through in chat. I want to answer those questions, but I want to kind of get to the flip side, because we've been talking a ton about like a little bit of the offensive side when it comes to Xero Login. And I kind of see, Edward, I kind of see your topic up here, about this being pure gold to you. Hopefully you like this next piece that I'm about to show you as well. These resources are all great for the offensive side, and I'm still stand by my statement that I think every defensive person that's listening to chat needs to understand unequivocally how offense works so that you can be a better defender. But there's going to come a time where, we need a little bit more on our side from a defensive perspective to help us protect our environments. And gosh darn, wouldn't it be nice if we had a test range where we could simulate some of these threats and, look for indicators and try to decide how we were going to protect our organization. And this is where my good friends at Splunk come into play. This is not a sponsored, thing from Splunk. I'm not acting on behalf of Splunk. This is just, I think Splunk is awesome. And so they have on their blog, they have just released Detecting CVE 2020-1472 using the Splunk attack range. And it prompted me to want to share with you guys that if you're not familiar with Splunk attack range, I cannot wait to share this with you. And as a matter of fact, prior to this, I was just talking to Security Live, my good friend John Bauer. We've had him on the show in chat a couple of times. He runs a Security Live Twitch channel as well. If you don't know it, go over there and check it out. But he's a huge Splunk nerd, and he does a lot of really cool things with Splunk. And so if you're not familiar with it, Splunk has what they refer to as the attack range. And here's the GitHub page for it, and I'll kind of post this for literally anybody who's interested, not just from a blue perspective. If you're a red teamer, you should familiarize yourself with Splunk attack range. If you're looking to get into Splunk and looking for something that already has Splunk data in it, and I'll kind of let this video play in the background while I monologue. So this is a video of Splunk attack range. This is them, looking through the comp file and things like this. But basically what Splunk attack range allows you to do is, it's got a Splunk environment there. You can see here that they're, just kind of messing with the configurations for it. But you can run Splunk attack range and use its templates set up there to basically emulate any of the threat actors that are in the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You'll see here once they go through all the configurations that they'll actually, yes, okay, thank you for the help. There's all the help and everything else. I guess I could probably go forward to some of the more interesting stuff here. Right, so here they're building out the instance they've got it right now. They're building out in AWS using Terraform, and so once everything's all built out, it'll give you kind of the Splunk server, which is operating as your search head, and then they'll kind of give you the domain controller that they're doing. And so from here, you can use the IP address that's listed there, and you can basically go into your own Splunk environment that they've got set up for you with the data that they've included with their attack range. You can see in this case, it's got about 35,000 events. And so it basically gives you the opportunity to have access to a Splunk environment with several sources, with several event types that are already loaded in there, so that you can play around with it. So lots of good things that can happen from here. Let's go over to like one of the simulations. Here we go. So here's one of the simulations from MITRE. It's the credential dumping. So you can see here that they spin up a Terraform instance in AWS. Come on. There we go. There we go. So now that the Terraform is stood up, it's going to then target the domain controller, and it's going to tell it to force it to actually simulate the actual MITRE technique 1003, which is the credential dumping attack. It's basically preloading in all of the indicators that would come with that attack, inside of the Splunk environment. So that's what you're seeing here. Is you're seeing all the scripts kind of run this. So you can see it's successfully run it against the target, and now it comes over here, and you can use Splunk to basically look at that particular type of attack, and you can see what that attack would look like inside of Splunk. So Splunk attack range, pretty awesome. They've written this entire blog post here that talks about how do you use the attack range to basically detect the Xero Login vulnerability. So long way about basically, using something like this, using something like Attack Range, so that you don't have to stand up all these systems yourself. Instead, you can rely on the community to kind of bring forth something like this, so that if you're looking inside of your organization to try to see what this particular type of attack would look like in your environment, you can use Splunk Attack Range to do so. Absolutely a link to the Splunk post. Sorry, I was busy chatting with that one, but there you go. Link to the Splunk post there for that one. So rule sets out there, opportunity for you to use this from a, and then again, if you look at this with some of the other topics that we talked about earlier in the night, where specifically we talked about, the squirrel threat hunting methodology, now you can take something like this Attack Range and you can use this over here in your, in your tools and techniques, and you can use the Attack Range to basically build your hypothesis out, that you would then ultimately end up using, to verify and uncover new patterns and new TTPs. And that is how it all kind of comes together in terms of being able to use your offensive tools and your defensive tools together to look for something as emergent as Xero.
Are an elite Splunk partner.
Whoops.
This means we can support customers through the...
That you weren't supposed to hear that. Forgot to pause the video. So with that, now I'll go over to chat and see what I missed over in chat. This is pure gold to me. Our SOC is only about a year old, and so is my cyber career. I've asked us to get some threat hunting capability and been told, well, tell me what you need. So all this is ideal. Awesome, Edward. Welcome to the CyberInsecurity family. I'm glad you got what you needed. That is what we are here for. Feel free to reach out to me on DMs if you would like to chat more about this in depth. I'd be more than happy to, give you some more in-depth knowledge on threat hunting and capabilities and things like that. We joked about the we're mainframe, but not. Yep, that was a good one. Come to think about it, I've never heard of any Spectre or Meltdown victims. Yeah. There really hasn't been any Spectre or Meltdown victims. I mean, and it's, or if there has been, it hasn't been to the extent of some of these other vulnerabilities that we've seen. And again, it gets back to the hype. And again, please understand where I'm coming from with this, right? Hopefully you see on these streams, I'm a practitioner just like you. I've been a practitioner my entire career. I've also sat in that executive leadership seat. I've advised CISOs, I've advised CIOs, I've advised board of directors, and I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating it is to get that call from somebody because they see a Forbes article that tells them that the sky is falling. And then when you have cybersecurity professionals who have been conditioned to say, well, if the sky is falling, I'm going to get more money, which means I'm going to get things fixed, which means I'm going to be a better cybersecurity person. And quite honestly, that's just that's a fallacy. It's you're sticking your finger in the hole of a dam to run out and make a big deal about a vulnerability just to have them patch that one vulnerability when their entire patch management program and the entire vulnerability management program is busted. We talked about leading through influence when we were joking about, university and higher ed, CISO roles. We joked about it, but in reality, you do have to learn to lead through influence. And first part of leading through influence is realizing that every time you come to a director of IT or an SVP of IT or something like that with a brand new vulnerability every week, it's gonna become white noise before too long. Cred Stealer, yeah. Had a customer for state of Texas where Mimikatz was used just a couple of years ago. It's very much a real threat. 100%, no doubt about it. Shamu with the jokes. It's not Dad Joke Wednesday, okay? It's not Dad Joke Wednesday if you want to go splunking. N Piper says, I'm a Splunk admin in job duty now. I still go back and forth whether to go into Splunk as a specialty niche admin architecture. Outside of that, Splunk is awesome. Everyone should be looking at it. Free 500 100%. You do get the free 500 megabytes license. Splunk is awesome. And that doesn't mean, let's clarify that right, in Piper. That doesn't mean that we're saying that everybody has to go out and buy Splunk and increase their Splunk price, because Splunk is freaking expensive we could go ad nauseum how incredibly expensive Splunk is. If you're a Splunk admin now, you're going to have a job for a really, really long time in this space. If you continue to go down the Splunk route and get into some of the more niche type of work that you're doing inside of Splunk, especially on the admin architecture side, we're talking, you can make a lot of money doing Splunk type stuff, but that's really only one aspect of it. License costs go up. If you're doing it on-prem, your in-house data center costs are through the freaking roof on it. It's a very intensive machine, entity to try to run. And so, it's a pain in the ass, to put it lightly, to have in your environment. I've run both on-prem and cloud instances of Splunk. And I say this, if I have my friends from Splunk here on the call, I'd say this in front of them. I've said it to them before. Their model is built around you giving them more data. And so when you ask them how to solve a problem, they're like, well, we need more data. And more data means more license costs. More license costs means more money into Splunk's pocket. So it's not a cheap solution by any stretch of the imagination. Xero Login question. My understanding is round 1 patching does little for stopping the risk versus just giving you visibility. Round 2 patches come in February and are supposed to stop it dead. You think Mimikatz can exploit an August patched system? I'm gonna go with yes, until we start to see some more results come out of the field for that one. I'm gonna say yes on that. That's a guess, but I'm gonna say yes on that one. Are you still planning on an OSINT stream soon? Yes, Thierson. I'm actually let me hit that one towards the end, because it's a deeper answer to that question, but the short answer is yes. Screen door on a submarine. I hate to be on that submarine. Off topic, you mentioned a Shodan alternative a few weeks ago. I did mention, thank you. God, look, that's a dude who pays attention to the streamer, or dudette. That's a streamer who pays attention to the stream. I think it's let's see if this is it. Leak. Yep, here it is. Leak IX. Yep, that's it. Post that one for you. It's still running, so oh wow, it looks like they've added single sign-on with LinkedIn. User beware on that one. I won't be using that one. But that's it right there. With that being said, so let me give you your in-depth answer there, Therson. We kind of got onto a little bit of a momentum when it came to getting people on the stream. Full transparency, we did a massive marketing campaign on LinkedIn when we first launched the stream. I've got close to 10,000 followers on LinkedIn, and the amount of response that we got back from LinkedIn of people wanting to be on the stream was something more than Carmen or I ever could have imagined. And so we've actually been kind of caught up in trying to make sure that we at least talk to everybody that responded to us, tried to do the interviews with them, find out if they were good fits for having you guys, get information from them on the stream. We didn't want to bring people who didn't have valuable information, didn't have unique stuff. We have turned people away who wanted to be on the stream, people who were clearly just interested in it, to market their tool. And one of the things that I've always promised you guys is that we're not just going to turn into a giant marketing platform for people. We want to bring you real conversations. And that reminds me to talk to you about something else that we are working on, in that same light. And so we did get a little bit behind on some of the things that we have talked about doing, specifically like the 100% OSINT stream. With the lawyer coming on Wednesday, we're actually going to take a small break, and I use the word break very loosely in terms of having guests on the stream. We're probably going to limit guests to only being like maybe once a week instead of really trying to fill up the schedule with 2 times a week with guests, so that we can focus on some other things for the other 2 streams during the week. One of those being catching up with things we talked about, like the OSINT stream. I've got some some cool things that I'm working on from a not necessarily a technology perspective, but from a methodology and an operational perspective that I want to share with you guys. More on the technical side when it comes to building out systems and building out ecosystems. I think you guys are going to really enjoy that type of stuff. And so there's things like that I want to share with you guys. And so probably in the next couple of weeks, we're going to slow down just a tad. We're still going to bring guests on. And so, to that end, I'm working with some very big names in the industry, to try to get them to come on and have a conversation with us as well. So yeah, long story short, that's basically what's going on with the OSINT stream. And that's what's been taking a little longer than anticipated to get that one up. So apologize for that one. Yeah, that's Amazon jobs, not yours, turning into a giant marketing platform. Yeah, exactly. It's, and that's never been our goal to be a marketing platform. We've absolutely never wanted to do that. And that's if you notice when we have guests on here, I'll give them their 15 seconds of fame, for participating on the show. We're very grateful for them that, but we want you guys to get the value. If you're going to sit 2 hours with us, we want you guys to get some good value out of that. And so, with that being said, looking forward to tracking down a CEO and their personal cell phone number. With that being said, I do want to tell you about a couple of sponsorship deals that we're working on. And I don't talk to you about these sponsorship deals to brag about the sponsorship deals. I want to kind of to Therason's statement there about the honest answers. I want to be transparent with you all here. We are working with two kind of tracks. One with an EDR vendor, one with two EDR vendors actually, and the second with an identity and access management company. Not one of the two that we've had on the stream already. So I'll just kind of leave it there like that. And I want to get you guys hyped for this because I'm super hyped for this. But one of the sponsorship deals that we're working on, and this name is still in beta, so we could see this name change. But we're thinking about doing the CyberInsecurity Unhackable Challenge. So that's kind of the name of it, right? So everybody get hyped for the CyberInsecurity Unhackable Challenge, patent pending. What we're working on. And this is all very beta, but I want to get the stream hyped for it because I'm super hyped for it. I want you guys to be hyped for it. Imagine this, right? So if every Wednesday we did the CyberInsecurity Unhackable Challenge, and one lucky viewer, whether we do it random through some type of Nightbot giveaway or something like that, or whether we pre-pick the individual or what, we'll figure all that later. But let's take this particular EDR vendor in case that we're talking about, right? They're an EDR vendor. Their goal is to detect and potentially prevent an adversary from compromising a system. We would make a system available to a particular individual. We would work with that individual, make sure they had access to that system, and live on stream, while we are covering the news and doing like we do, every night during the stream, they would be spending that 2 hours of time basically trying to break that vendor's software live on stream with us. And if they were successful, then we'll obviously give you something awesome other than, bits from crumbs, and hypes from crumbs. Crumbs, can give away his hypes to his lady friends that he's got on stream that, come in there and pick on him and yell at him. I've been in his stream. His stream is intense. It's kind of, imagine a bug bounty, but this is actually going to be live on stream. You're going to be targeting a specific vendor, and it's a vendor who makes their living by saying that they either do detection, do prevention, do, monitoring and response, and we're going to put them to the test live on stream. And this is why we call it the Unhackable Challenge. And so, like I said, we've got three potential sponsors that we're working on with this. So more to come on that, but I wanted to kind of get you guys kind of teed up for that. So, brush off your evasion skills if you're into that sort of thing. We'll have some more details on the logistics of how that works out. But let's I want to get a poll here. I want to see how stupid this idea was. Let's do a new poll here for the Unhackable challenge, for the Cyber Insecurity Unhackable challenge. Sounds cool. Sounds bad. Could care less. Right? Give me your honest opinion. Let me know what you think about the Cyber Insecurity Unhackable challenge. I do care about your feedback. If you guys really do think it's lame or sounds like a horrible idea, that was my idea, and you're all fired from the stream. I'm just kidding. So it can't sound like a bad idea because it was my idea. Are 2 hours enough for a pen test or bug hunting in that form? Not really, not in a fullest sense of it. The idea would be is that, we're really looking for somebody who, if you're an individual who's like, I'm going to participate in, the Cyber Insecurity Unhackable challenge, it's EDR, it's next gen AV, evasion is key. And so, we're not going to spend the 2 hours with you trying to figure out if it's exploitable to 08067 or 1710 or anything like that. We're going to land you on the box. We're going to let you pop a shell with whatever exploit you want. And your idea is that you have to get a flag by defeating that technology's bread and butter, right? And so if it's EDR, you're going to land on that box. You're going to be, popped into a DLL, which means you're operating in memory. And it may be something as simple as the first time you run Mimikatz on that box, that EDR picks you up because it has a detection mechanism for Mimikatz. And so in your prep time, if you will, you're thinking about, okay, if you are getting on with 1710 with Metasploit and you're landing there, how do you evade EDR once you land in that box? And that's really what it's geared towards is, we want you to prep for it. You're taking on if you look at the EDR vendors, there's really only 3 that I could be talking to if you're familiar with me on this, right? And so, you're going to take on a EDR vendor that, is pretty proud of their technology. And so we want you to prep for it. We want you to be prepared for it. We want you to give it your best all. Think of this as more of like a live version of Pwn to Own in a limited time period. This is less bug bounty and more Pwn to Own. Thanks, Crumbs, for the bits. Love the bits. Set phasers to maximum fuzz. Wow, that's God. There we go with the dad jokes again. Can't even get Crumbs. They taken. So cool. So that's it. I probably shouldn't have ran that poll for 10 minutes because that wasn't very fair. It looks like the majority of you still think it sounds cool anyway, so we'll let that poll continue for a little longer. We've got about 10 minutes left in the stream. I want to open it up to questions. I know we always do questions throughout the stream, and everybody who's used to it is used to doing questions randomly through the stream. Are there any questions from anybody here? Is there anything anybody wants to ask about, or anything anybody wants me to give my perspective or opinion on? How did you guys like? Who'd you like better last week, Roger or Bill last week? Which stream did you like better, Mondays or Wednesdays? Wednesdays. There was a lot of energy on Wednesday's stream. Yeah, everybody still thinks the idea sounds like a play. Yeah. Cool. Well, if there are no more questions, if nobody's got anything going on, I appreciate everybody as always tuning in for the stream. Looks like the threat hunting conversation was good. Remember to reach out to me, via DMs if you want to, talk about anything that we covered. We got a ton of new followers on the stream. Appreciate all of our new followers. Appreciate the gifted subs going out to Graham. As always, I appreciate everybody here. make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, all the usual socials. Crumbs, are you going to stream right now, Crumbs, or are you going to work? If you're going to stream, I was going to go raid your stream. He might still be dealing with that DNS issue. Yeah, he probably still dealing with that DNS issue. Well, cool. All right, everybody, I'll hang out and chat for a little while longer as per usual. Be safe out there. Keep learning. Don't forget, Wednesday's going to be hype. Come in on Wednesday for the lawyer. It's going to be awesome with the lawyer. Other than that, keep learning. We'll chat with everybody later. For up-to-the-minute cybersecurity news, make sure you follow and subscribe to the CyberInsecurity channel on Twitch and YouTube. Also, make sure you turn on those notifications so that you know when we go live.